welcome to the Clifton Worley Show. This week we have Jay Smith from TeleTalks. And what's up, RJ? Glad to have you on, man.
Thanks for having me on. Glad to be here. I'm excited I think the only thing I'm a little bummed out about is I wish you did your song intro live so we could all sing it together. Kind of like one of those old variety shows where they at the end of the day have every guest come out and sing a song. I feel like that's what it should be.
That's brilliant. I should
Yeah.
do that.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm a little bit jealous. I caught wind of that you and several of my South California friends are having a little get together this weekend, and I thought hard about flying out for it, but I just couldn't justify it this time. I can't wait to see what all kind of shenanigans and fun stuff you guys get into.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing. I mean, everybody's gonna be there. Gear Slum, 60 Cycle, Tone Jerks, Flippin' Flippers. I mean, you were in the conversation. You could have done it.
I could have done it.
But I mean, that's a long flight for a day.
Yeah.
I mean, although while I haven't had Co's cooking, I have had some of his whiskey that he's made himself. If it's anything like that, it might have been worth the flight. I'm just saying.
Well, I haven't had any of his food. But I have gotten to hang out with Co before, and if anything, the food that he picks out is anything about the kind of food he makes, then I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, he's supposed to be smoking a bunch of meat.
Yeah.
Did you make it to the 200th episode of 60 Cycle?
No, that was another thing. I was looking really, really hard at,
Gotcha.
and I just couldn't justify it at the time.
Yeah, that was the first time I met him. And that's when I met the Tone Jerks and everybody else there.
Yeah, just this is kind of off subject, but for me to get a flight to San Diego is probably almost twice the price if I flew into LA or something like that. It's just a weird airport.
Is.
Yeah.
I'm from, we'll probably find out this later, but I actually grew up after my freshman year. I lived in Texas up until 2 years ago. So, flying out of Dallas to San Diego, it can, going back and forth to visit family, it can be a pain money-wise, because there's a premium on San Diego flights. There really is. It's kind of like flying there's two airports in Dallas. There's Dallas International, and then there's Love Field.
Mm-hmm.
Love Field's a lot smaller, but again, because it's a lot smaller, you're going to pay a lot more to fly into there, but it's all way less hassle, where DFW is just like LAX. It's a pain. Then you got to beg somebody to pick you up, and then they're stuck in traffic.
Yeah, I know every bit that you save, and I've learned this the hard way, whether it be LAX or SFO, but every little bit you save, you end up spending in other ways to get around
in
town.
Time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, well, I hope you guys have a good time, and again, super jealous that I can't be there this time. Hopefully I can catch a moment like that and finally make it out. So, but
there's always NAMM.
There's always NAMM, and it's still kind of scratching my head thinking about that one and see if I can make that one work. But yeah, I just want to say, maybe you guys ought to come to Nashville or New Orleans or something like that.
I was actually in New Orleans last year.
Oh yeah.
For my girlfriend's family reunion. It was pretty cool. Well, I only got to spend a couple days, but it was pretty cool.
Oh, so your girlfriend's family's from down there?
Her extended family, all of her family is from Southern California, her close family, but they had this huge family reunion, massive family reunion, and so we went there. I actually drove there from Dallas because I was actually visiting my family in Texas, And then me and my aunt, we drove to New Orleans, spent a few days there, and then like flew back, kind of thing, back to all the way back to California.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Well, if you're ever in the area again, let me know, and
Well, we should
we'll
do
definitely
summer
hang out.
Nam. You have you done? Did you do
Yeah,
summer Nam?
yeah. I've done that the last 2 years,
Okay.
summer Nam, and it's really easy for me because like it's like 6 hours up the road. I can get a
Yeah.
car and run up there, and it's no problem. Um, so yeah, but yeah, totally, man. If you make it out, would love to hang and get together and do some stuff. So
For sure. Oh, you know what? I'm actually kind of jealous of you if you answer depends on how you answer this question. Did you go to Sweetwater Fest?
no, 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 I haven't done that one yet. That's
Uh,
that's another one like I oughta check off my list. I think would be
like
easy to do.
I feel like because like you can like go there and actually buy stuff, I feel like I'd like it a lot more than Nam. Just because it's like really meant for consumers, which is really cool.
Yeah, but
But
see,
yeah,
here's my thing about summer now. I can go up there and not feel obligated to buy anything, and it's a lot cheaper for me to do that.
this is true. This
Yeah.
is true.
Well, let's kind of get into a little bit of how you got into playing and kind of how it took you to today.
Sh- Sure. So basically started when I was probably 13 or 14. I've always had a love for music, like true love for music. From when I was a little kid listening to such a wide array of music because both my grandfather and my aunt were heavily into music, but very different kinds. My grandfather was, classic country, Waylon Jennings,
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Cash, Charlie Pride, like all that stuff. So, I guess that's where I kind of got that hint of a telly, because like my grandfather wasn't an instrumentalist, but he knew that Luther Perkins played a Telecaster because, that was Johnny Cash's original guitarist. So he
Mm-hmm.
knew that, kind of thing. Um, and I always wanted to get into music. It wasn't until about 13 or 14 I begged for a guitar. I ended up getting this really, really, really terrible acoustic guitar that I did nothing with for probably like 2 more years. It wasn't until like my freshman year of high school I sold my PlayStation, got rid of video games, bought a really bad Strat copy from Silvertone. I bought it off of my friend for like $75. That and a little practice Ibanez amp that I
Mm-hmm.
immediately blew up by blaring it too loud, and it had like a maybe a 5-inch or a 4-inch speaker on it. Um, and honestly, what happened is after my freshman year of high school, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I moved to Texas, and I didn't have any friends in Texas. So that I moved at like basically I got out of school like for the summer on my freshman year, and like a week and a half later I was in Texas.
Wow.
The whole family picked up and moved, kind of thing. My grandparents, I lived with my grandparents at the time. They raised me, and it was just kind of like, hey, we want to get to retire. There's no way we can retire in Southern California, so let's move to the South, where everything's cheaper, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent that whole summer just like no friends, no nothing, being sad, lonely me, learning how to play guitar because that's all I could do. Like I said, I sold my PlayStation, had no video games, I just had guitars. I eventually picked up a couple other guitars. I picked up a BC Rich Mockingbird
Mm-hmm.
that played like garbage. It was like a B stock, so like the neck was all bowed, but I didn't know any better, kind of thing. And I thought I got like a smoking deal on it because I paid like $99 from I don't even know if it's still a website, music123.com.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I got it. I got one of their B stocks. And it wasn't until the following year that I got a nicer guitar, which was a Jackson Flying V or Rhodes Flying V, because I wanted to play. Basically, what happened is I wasn't really into metal, but all the music scene in Dallas was metal, so I was like, oh, I have to learn how to play metal if I want to be in a band. What's cooler than a flying V, right? Right? That's So it was kind of circumstance, and I never regret because I regret not getting the guitar that I really fell in love with that day that I played a lot of, and it was an Ibanez Art Core with like like a big body, like jazz body, semi hollow with a Bigsby. That was back when they were going for like $400. Mind you, this is also when Mexican Telecasters and stuff were going for $400 brand new. Now they go for this same hardcore goes for like $700, and I'm like, I regret not getting that instead of the Jackson Flying V. And I just played a lot of music, played some bands. I was in this band called Fractured for a while. It was like a post grunge band, and I actually met like my best friend, my friend Bobby, who is awesome. You guys should check him out. Just a plug real quick, Bobby Stout Band on YouTube. He does a bunch of like covers and stuff, especially if you like Red Dirt Country, like Cross Canadian Ragweed,
cool
stuff like that. If you guys are into that, check it out. And then I went to a charter school for my high school, the remainder of my high school years in Texas. And they didn't have like a football team or any sports team because the whole school was only like 112 students. And that was from 9th through 12th. That was the entire class, like entire student body. And so what they did have was awesome, like technology-based like electives. And one of them was film. And I always had been fond of like composers of film or in film. One of my biggest inspirations was like at the time was like Bear McQuarrie, who was a composer for the remake of Battlestar Galactica. After the miniseries ended, the 4-episode miniseries, he took over for, I believe his name's Richard Gibbs. And I just loved his stuff that he did. Like, I just loved the music he made for that show. He ended up going on doing The Walking Dead. If you played the new God of War game, I mean, this guy's huge now. But at the time, that was his first thing. But they had a film program. Point being is they had a film program, and every year they would do a film where the whole school could get involved. And I was like, hey, can I do the music? Like, I just randomly asked. They're like, well, do you have a recording set up? And I was like, kinda. Of course, I what my kind of recording setup was like just a PreSonus audio box and a really, really terrible laptop. But with the miracle of plugins and everything, I started making music for these films. I did a couple of them in high school, and then that kind of just led outside of high school. So I started doing college films, and then next thing I know, I'm doing, low budget, no budget indie films that are, making their rounds in some like, smaller film festivals. And so that's kind of where my music went to, where I expanded not just guitar, but I started, writing string parts. Cause, my thought was at the time, like, you can't have just regular band music in a movie. It's got to be epic. It's got to have strings and horns and everything else. Years later, James Murphy of I'm totally forgetting his name. Not James Murphy. James Murphy is LCD. There's another Murphy. I'm forgetting his name, his first name, but he did like Sunshine. A couple other films but they're mainly band orientated, like cinematic films, and like just the fact that he made a guitar sound epic like that, I thought was amazing. But at the time I thought big band or big, orchestral strings, pads, everything. Yeah. That's the only way to make music.
You got to Brian Wilson it up, right?
Exactly. Gotta make it as epic as possible. So that kind of led me into playing a bunch of other things. Other instruments, keys, getting familiar with, strings and stuff like that. And, just like one opportunity came out of another. I've done probably about 12 films now. A good chunk of documentaries, and I even did a educational video game
Nice.
that was like I did like retro inspired like 8-bit music for and things like that. But really, it all started with guitar. I do the majority of my writing on guitar. Even if it's like I'm writing stuff for like strings, or anything, like I'll write it on guitar, then I'll learn how to play it on like piano, and then I'll record it like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, well,
Um,
well, talk me through your process there a little bit. Like, are you doing this all like direct in and like on a like a digital audio workstation? I mean, what's your
yeah,
workflow there?
yeah. So basically, at the time, it's changed over the years a few, but a lot of times it's I'll sit in my room with just my guitar plugged into my pedals, plugged into my amp,
Okay.
and I'll be playing stuff. And if I come up with like a riff or something, then I'll record it. A lot of times, to make my life simpler, though, I don't even mic up a guitar amp. At the time, I had an 11 rack by DigiDesign,
Mm-hmm.
or Avid, whatever they're
Right.
called these days. Back in my day, they used to be called DigiDesign. um, but they I plug into that and get my guitar tones like that, record it, and then I would kind of just build from there. The way I look at it is I'm playing every instrument as if I'm that member of the band. So I'll record a quick riff and then I'll pick up a bass. And like basically like it'd be no different than like, doing improv with a guitarist in the room, except for this time I'm the bass player. So I'd be feeding off of him. And then because of what the bass player is playing, I'll change up what the guitar is playing, and kind of just build like that. Same thing with the drums. Like, oh, bass is doing this. Well, then obviously I want to make the drum sound like this because the bass and the drums got to be in sync. And then, oh, that makes me think of something completely different for guitar. Let's play that instead. And it kind of just evolves from there. It's, really like Legos. You're building it
Yeah.
piece by piece.
Well, I'm
Um,
curious about the drums. Do you
mhm.
are you tracking your own drums, or are you like programming your
No,
drums?
I've always programmed. I've done a few sessions where like I've programmed the drums and then I'll get a real drummer to play them in like a studio. Like I'll pay for studio time
Mm-hmm.
to have the drums done, but like I've never. It mainly, honestly, is just programming drums, or honestly, if I can find a good loop or like the pre-loops that come in like most like drum VSTs,
Mm-hmm.
like Easy Drummer, etc. I'll do that too.
Yeah.
Um, no shame in my game. If it works, it just works.
Yeah.
Whether
It seems like it. Sometimes it's easier to get inspiration. I would think from, oh, I like this drum loop. Let me see if I can play on top of that, and then maybe like make it more like interesting. You know, from there.
well, that, or sometimes it totally bites you in the butt when you're like, oh yeah, this loop's good enough for like a scratch track, but I'm gonna program it. And then when you program them and you're trying to make it all intricate and stuff, you find that it's a matter of just keeping it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like the original loop was far better and did the track far more justice than your 4 hours of trying to program a chorus or a verse
Yeah.
could ever do.
Yeah. I've never got into trying to program drums. I think I would drive myself insane because I'm such a perfectionist
Hmm.
that I would just yeah, I can't see myself doing that. I probably would shell out the money to have a drummer or somebody else do it, you know.
Yeah, I would say honestly my weakest link in all my music would be my drums just cuz I don't think like a drummer. Strings I can do. Like strings I can do. Any stringed instrument, got it. I can even write like horn sections and things like that, but like drums have just kind of kind of blown me by. Like I try my best, but like I'm never satisfied.
hmm Yeah, that's yeah, me too. Like I'm not a drummer. I wish so bad I was, but I'm not, and so that's always been my weak link as well. Well, talk to me about the so you're going direct and you're using plugins, so you're not like really worried about like preamps or anything like that, right?
No, like I said, my first setup was like straight up just audio box
hmm
for many many years. Then I upgraded to like an M Audio Profire 2626. And honestly, like I've never really had outboard gear or anything like that. I have had plenty of plugins though. Like, I've invested money in quite a bit in plugins. But I learned all my audio stuff from like Graham Cochran of Recording Revolution. And what's inspiring about his stuff on like YouTube is like, he does these crazy challenges and these crazy things to prove that you can just make music with whatever you have. Like he did a whole song and published it on iTunes, and it sounds, you wouldn't know it, but it was 100% recorded on his iPhone. And I'm not talking about running a microphone with an interface into your iPhone. No, he put the phone that he had up to like the grow cloth of his amp and recorded programmed drums, and like didn't use like a MIDI keyboard. He just used the GarageBand keyboard on his iPhone, and then held the phone when he sang the vocals, all that stuff, and he published it on iTunes, and it still sounds better than a lot of other people's stuff who may have tens of thousands of dollars in gear, but they don't know the craft itself.
Yeah.
So I've always focused on the craft. Like my eyes when it comes to like preamps is, yeah, they do make a difference. They can sound good, but at the end of the day, like if you don't know how to use like a parametric EQ in your DAW, like what makes you think you can use, a compressor, some like Neve compressor, like preamp thing, whatever the case may be, everybody wants tens and thousands of dollars in gear, but honestly, you can make a great sounding record in the box. Just your computer.
Yeah, that's very interesting stuff, and I can remember the day I never was on the end when I learned to record of like computer workstations. I was doing it on. I started out on like 4-track cassette players, and then quickly within a year or two, like hit the limitations there, and then like delved into like those all-in-one units, like the digital hard disk.
Oh, dude. So before the audio box, I did have a setup before that. It was a Zoom multi-track. It was just the worst thing ever, right? Okay, so it could do 8 tracks, which is cool. Except for this, it had a proprietary memory card, so it wasn't like an SD card. This was proprietary, and it recorded on some weird format that wasn't like just easy uploadable. So what you did is you recorded on there, and I was too broke to afford one of their memory cards, so I just had the stock one it came with. So that gave me 22 minutes. However, that's only if I did 1 track. I do 4 tracks. You divide that 22 minutes into 4 tracks, and it just got smaller and smaller and smaller. And then what you would have to do is put it in your computer, then convert it to like a WAV file, something that's actually readable to most like media players, and then that's how you did it.
Oh my goodness.
It was a pain.
Yeah.
It was the worst thing ever.
Yeah, that's not good workflow. And that's one of the reasons why I eventually got away from. I had like a Yamaha 16 track unit,
Okay,
and
yeah.
I'm sure it had its limitations. Back then, I thought that was the most wonderful thing, but like it had what I thought was amazing was it had eight. It could record eight simultaneously. Okay,
Hmm.
so in my mind, and I was playing in bands and stuff as a teenager, I was like, I can record a whole band live. That was the whole thing. Like if I could record live with it, I
Hmm.
could track an
Yeah.
entire drum set with that and break it off into different tracks, and then I could go back and lay the band on top of that. Like I was, it was pretty groundbreaking for the late '90s. I thought, or the early
Hmm.
2000s, and but looking back now, I'm like, well, probably didn't have the best preamps. Probably wasn't the
Hmm.
highest quality, bit rates or conversions. Uh, but back then, that was as good as you could get.
But here's also the thing. Knowing this now, hindsight's 2020. But I'm sure you go back and you listen to some of those tracks and you still remember how inspired you were during those tracks, like recording that, and how much fun it was just working with what you had, because that was the greatest thing to you at that time.
Oh yeah.
Like, the most creative I've ever been is like, with my little audio box, my little PreSonus audio box, and then I got these bigger. I ended up getting a like I said, the M Audio Profire 2626, and it had 8 mic ins, but it could have up to 26 ins and 26 out with 8 at if I got more preamps and stuff.
Hmm.
Being at home, like even when I did record like other musicians, I think the most I ever used was 4.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was complete overkill, but I thought I needed it. But like there's something that's just awesome about being in the moment and making the music. Like, again, it goes back to, yeah, I had an amp and all this stuff, but what really inspired me, or most of my tracks that I recorded, were just with the Avid 11 rack, the guitar tones in it. And before that, before I got that, I was using Guitar Rig. Is that what it's called, by Native Instruments? It's like a digital. It's kind of like Amplitude,
Okay.
but different company essentially.
Okay.
But it's just, people get caught up in the gear. Don't get me wrong, I'll talk gear all day. I love gear. But at the end of the day, I'm just, you gotta get back to the why you want the gear in the first place. It's because you want to make music, and I feel like it's easy to get lost in that.
Yeah. Well, I've got an idea. Let's talk about tellies.
Ah, what made you think of that?
It just came to me, man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hate them. They're the worst thing ever. They're just garbage. They're garbage. Everybody knows, real players play Les Pauls, bro. Don't you know this?
I thought it was Stratocasters. That's what everybody played when I was a teenager.
Do I look like I play funk? Actually, I love funk. Well, I don't know what I'm talking about. But no, yeah, let's talk Telecasters. What do you want to talk about? How you feel about Telecasters?
I
Huh?
I am a late bloomer when it comes to Telecasters. I did not have a Telecaster until I was probably about 28 years old.
Okay.
And then so anyways, I the first telly I had was a made in Mexico, like, standard, and it was
Okay.
okay.
What
Um,
color?
it was a like a greenish. Uh, and excuse me, because like I'm a little bit colorblind, so my colors are always off. But
Gotcha.
it
Okay.
was like a green slash grayish color.
Okay. What year was it?
I don't remember. It was a 90 something, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
I picked it up
So when
for.
they just like moved, because they didn't move they didn't have a factory until like the late 80s there, right? Because that's where
Something
they
like
start
that.
doing the.
Yeah.
I think that's where they start doing the first batch of Squires was in Mexico before they moved them overseas.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
there's
that
some
seems about right.
Squires from the 80s that are like amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, continue.
Yeah, but so anyways, like it played okay. It just by that point, like I had played a Stratocaster, for years and years and years and years, and this wasn't much different in the feel to me. And the pickups weren't amazing or anything. It was just a
Hmm.
standard stock thing. Um, so I had an opportunity to trade. I had like a Takamine acoustic that I traded for a 72 uh, custom reissue. And I still have that guitar today. It is just my number one.
A,
It kind of
a
like
72 reissue Tele or a Strat. I'm sorry.
the 72 reissue Tele,
Oh, okay, cool.
and that's kind of like my number one. And I love that guitar. I love the feel of the neck. It's got the vintage saddles, like with the 3-piece saddle deal, and it's not the guitar that has the perfect intonation, but I just love that guitar. It's like it just feels like home to me.
Now, when you say the 72 reissue, are you talking about like, is it like a deluxe? So it's got like a single on a humbucker in the neck, or is it like a classic Tele setup single?
No, it's the custom, like the Keith Richards look. It's got like the
Oh.
the like the wide range humbucker in the top and the regular
Mm-hmm.
telly
Yeah.
bridge. Of course, I found out later that those reissues aren't technically like a real wide range humbucker. They're more
Yeah.
like a Gibson humbucker, like the way they're
Mm-hmm.
designed.
Yeah. Those are hard to come by. You have to like pay quite a bit of money to get an actual wide
Yeah,
range
yeah.
humbucker, like even new, because it has something to do with like the parts and stuff, like to get true to form from like what they were in like the 70s. It's pretty pricey apparently, to build
However,
those.
however, there's a guy named Nick Bungers, um, who lives up in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and he has like a conversion process that he can take and change out the magnets and the way like the physical properties of it. And if
Hmm.
you, I don't think it was like too much money for him to like get the parts and then whatever his labor was on top of that. So if we've got anybody listening that's got one of these and they want to convert it, that's who I would talk to.
That's actually funny you say that. One of my favorite tellies I've ever owned. I unfortunately don't own it anymore due to life getting in the way of being able to keep gear. But I had a 72 made in Mexico reissue deluxe that had a custom paint job on it.
Nice.
If you guys want to check it out, it was actually today's Tele Tuesday post on TeleTalks. So follow me on Instagram, TeleTalks. But it was like a custom like blue sparkle, like agave blue, I guess, with like a tortoise pick shell or pick guard on it. It was great. Um, but I wasn't a huge fan of the bridge pickup. It was a little too shrill.
Mm.
But that neck pickup was like where it was at. And I'm a huge fan. I've always wanted a 72 because I listened to a lot of punk bands growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and like a lot of pop punk bands played a 72 deluxe kind of thing. And I just love a fat 70s Strat headstock on a telly. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Now I'm
it's
looking
so
at this
good.
guitar right now. That's a
Oh,
pretty
okay.
rad finish on that.
Yeah, like some dude had painted it was like black originally,
Mm.
but I bought it. Basically, the story is like my friend got it, kind of beat me to a trade with this other guy that we know, and he ended up getting it. And I was like, all right, you got it, but if you ever sell it, you have to message me first. And he goes, okay, deal. And like literally like a year later or so, he's like, hey, I need to buy a Fender Twin. I'm going on tour and I need a lot of wattage because of the places I'm playing. Do you want to buy it? And I was like, yeah, I do. So literally that picture that you're looking at was literally after I bought it, like probably 5 minutes after I bought that guitar.
Nice.
And but again, with the rule of me and him, he goes, like a month later, he goes, if you ever sell that guitar, you hit me up first. So it's back in his hands. I don't think he's gonna get rid of it anytime soon, but I was happy it went back to him because we just both love this. It's like our kid that we share together. We both love him. Shout out to Lewis. Check out his band if you're into like post-punk kind of stuff. It's called Better Now. Really good stuff.
Cool. Yeah, I think I traded my first Tele I was talking about for a twin.
Nice. Okay.
And I don't have that twin anymore, but I know who has that Tele, and I believe he still has it. And I've tried to get that Tele back, and he does not want to sell it. So that tells you it's probably a pretty good one. I did have another. So I've had another Tele that I didn't hold on to for long, and it was a junker. It was a Squire. I want to say it was like the Affinity, and I never could get into the nut width on that one. But I did. It had upgraded pickups and several upgraded parts and tuners and everything.
My first Tele, because I basically at the time I was playing a PRS, and I wanted like another guitar. Because basically what happened is all those previous guitars that I mentioned, like the Jackson, the Mockingbird, those I traded all those in, and I bought a PRS SE Custom. Played that for many years, but I've always loved the way Teles look, but I never bought one until I bought a Squire Affinity, and I actually fell in love with it. It was actually a really good one. I guess I got one of those, like, ones that like people like, because there's some people who like swear by the Affinity series, just like there are people who swear by the Classic Vibe series, like this is the end all be all, you don't need to buy a Fender, you guys are crazy, like the quality's there. I got one of those. I was lucky enough to get one of those. I ended up selling it though, because I was like, no, I want some that says Fender on the headstock. So then what I did was, my next Tele after that was a Modern Players series, the ones that are built in China now, the Fenders that are built in China. It had the humbucker, and then it had a middle single coil in like the regular Tele neck, and you could split the humbucker. Really cool. It made me realize that I really one day want to just buy a Nashville Tele with the 3 pickups, because I just like that it can do a Strat, it can do a Tele, it can do a little bit of everything. Then I sold that for a made in Mexico Tele that was in like wine red or like burgundy or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was okay. I had a Seymour Duncan 52 in the pickup, in the bridge pickup. And it was pretty cool, but again, I was like, I want a regular like Tele. So actually what I ended up trading that guitar for, now that I think about it, is I didn't even trade it for another Tele. I traded it for a Les Paul. I traded for a Gibson Les Paul. But then here it comes. The love of my life. Now, I didn't get that 72 until after this. That 72 was actually one of my last like guitar acquisitions I've had. Well, not the last, but one of the later ones. But the love of my life came in. One, my girlfriend. I was starting to date my girlfriend, who I've still now been with going on 3 years. But I had started a new job. I was looking for a new guitar to treat myself, to celebrate my new job kind of thing. And I was on Reverb. This is actually the first time I ever bought anything off of Reverb, now that I think about it. And I was just like looking. I was in a band. I was really into a band called Daughter. They're still around. They're still really good. the guitarist Eleanor played a Fender Cabernita,
Yeah.
made in Mexico, Fender Cabernita. And so I was like looking for one of those. I found a couple guys in the local groups in Dallas. I was gonna buy one. It was like, the one of the standard colors that the Cabernita came in at the time. It was like a sunburst, which is like what she played. And I was gonna get one of those. And then like I said, I was on Reverb, and I saw the second love of my life. The first one being my girlfriend, but the second one was this surf green maple neck with a perloid pick guard upgraded, a hip shot bridge upgrade, Telecaster Cabernita Telecaster or whatever, staring me in the face. I wanted it so bad. I thought this thing was gonna sell so quick, and I was like, I don't get paid for another 2 weeks. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm freaking out. I'm telling my girlfriend about it. And so what happens is my girlfriend actually ends up buying me this Telecaster.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how she's the one. She bought me a Telecaster. And it's been my number one ever since. Like, there's something that is so amazing about Filtertron pickups in a Tele that I just love, because it still got the twang. Like most Gretches will still have that twang, but it's also still fat but yet sparkly. It's just like a tone that I can't describe, but it's like the best of every world you could think of, in my opinion. And ever since then, and my girlfriend also named her that ShellyTheTele. She also has her own Instagram, y'all. Check her out. It's ShellyTheTele. The whole inspiration behind that is I get really tired of all these people making Instagrams for their dogs. So I made one for my guitar.
That's awesome.
I need to do more posting there, but like my idea is like I'm going to be doing like the ridiculous, like, oh yeah, where they like take a picture of their dog and like they act like their dog, be like, oh yeah, I'm just lounging at the beach today. Like, I want to do that, but with ShellyTheTele. So that's that. But no, it's really ever since then. Like, and I feel like there's a Tele for every occasion. I guess that's another reason why I love them. Is there really is a Tele for every occasion. You want to play like heavy metal? Okay, you have a few options. You got like John 5 stuff if you want more classic kind of like metal stuff, or if you want like super duper like genty, you can get like Stephen Carpenter's ESP Telecaster that's got 8 strings on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's just a Tele for every occasion, and I think that's what's magical about them. Like, the thing that I think both the Telecaster and the Les Paul have in common is like they're just bare bones, man. They're just a piece of wood with some strings on it, and there's something that's just so raw and awesome about that. It's not curved top. I mean, yeah, the newer ones got belly cuts or whatever, but it's just a hunk of wood and a pickup. And you put that into you could put it into your pedal board, which I'm a huge fan of. Or you could just, do what I've been doing lately, and I'm plugging straight into my Marshall Class 5 amp, and I am turning it all the way up and getting just these crunchy Keith Richards, like just, tasty goodness.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about amps here in a minute, but since we got into talking about TeleTalks, kind of tell us, maybe some of our listeners, know about TeleTalks, but kind of talk about the idea behind that and kind of what you're doing with it, and
Sure.
Where you want to go with that.
Yeah. So TeleTalks, the name actually, again, comes from my amazing girlfriend. I'm terrible at picking names. She chose the name, just like she chose Shelly. She came up with TeleTalks because she knows how important teles are. Now, don't let the name fool you. Really, it's just about music gear. I do mainly Instagram at this time. There was a time where I was doing a lot more videos on YouTube, but then life happened. But now I'm kind of picking it all back up. And honestly, TeleTalks is, And like I said, it's not just about tellies. It's actually about a couple of things. We have, I guess you could say, a couple show ideas that I run with. First one being called Keep It Simple, Stupid. Because basically when I moved here, I just didn't have a lot of gear. Like all my gear was still left in Texas. And so I had to work with what I had. And it made me realize that you don't need, sure, it's cool to have, a pedal train pro, or like the biggest, baddest pedal board out there with 50 pedals. But really you can get away with like 3 or 4. Like if everyone wants to be real, you can really just, you don't need a lot. Like any genre, I don't care what it is, you could get away with like 3 or 4. And so that's the concept behind Keep It Simple Stupid. Basically it's a guitar, it's an amp, and it's 3 to 4 pedals that allow you to do a specific genre. Now we have some videos based on that on my Instagram and YouTube, and we also feature guests all the time, such as Brian and Kyle from the Tone Jerks. They both did one. Kyle did one for bass, Brian did one for guitar, both in the pop punk genre. I recently did one on Instagram. Now I'm picking it all back up. Basically shoegaze. What you can do with just a simple guitar amp and again 3 or 4 pedals, where typically with like a shoegaze, like ambient music, there is a huge like pedal board like that is identified, but you don't need that. And so that's kind of the point with Keep It Simple Stupid. Then I have another show called Talkin' Tellies, where we talk tellies and other twangs. And it's just, talking to people who love Telecasters. That's all it is. And they get to talk about their Telecasters. And before, like I said, basically what happened is I lost my job, got laid off. So I had to focus on that. And that was right when TeleTalks first started picking up. So there was quite a bit of break, but now I'm bringing it back. But the first episode did go live before then, featuring Jim Bowers of Tone Mob and all that stuff, because he's a huge telly fanatic. He's got amazing tellies. You want to talk about a 72 Deluxe that is amazing, you should play Billie Jean. That, I don't know if you've seen the sparkle on that. Yes. But it's got 12 coats of paint on it, so it weighs heavier than any Les Paul I have ever played. And basically the other stuff that I am going to be focusing on, both on YouTube and Instagram, is bucking these trends. It's easy to fall, like I said, it's easy to fall down these I need this pedal and this pedal, and Earthquaker came out with this pedal. I need that, and I need, all 3 Strymons or whatever the case may be. I want to focus on, hey, you bought this stuff to make music. Focus on the music. Don't just keep focusing on the gear. And it's easy to do it because I do it all the time. Everybody gets gas, hard, everything. So, and of course there will be regular gear demos here and there as gear comes along. But really it's just more of focus of how to make a specific genre of music in your head, and then also talk about gear and tellies and stuff, but be sure that you're always making music and work with what you got. I actually have a Keep It Simple Stupid that I plan on releasing, and it has nothing to do with actual music gear, but it has to do with YouTube gear, because if you guys watch anything on my YouTube channel, you watch any video on my Instagram, I'll tell you right now, it is shot on an iPhone.
Yeah.
Now I'm using a fancy app called Filmic Pro in there to adjust my frame rate and my, and things like that, my exposure and stuff, to get better control over my camera that's built into the phone. But it is, at the end of the day, an iPhone. And I'm actually recording directly into that with a cheap interface when I do demos and stuff, just because it speeds up the process. And you know what? It's just proof that you don't need everything in the world. You should have no excuses. As long as you have an instrument and you got a smartphone or anything like that, you can make music.
Yeah, totally.
And So that's the main focus of TeleTalks. Yeah, it's going to be like different ways explaining that. Like I have a video that I plan on recording talking about, you know, bucking basically buzzwords such as pedal platform amps. I can't stand that because I don't feel like it's true. Like, don't get me wrong, I would love to have a Bravado by Wampler pedals, but I think it's just because it's a cool amp, not because it's a pedal platform amp. You don't need a quote unquote pedal platform amp. And you don't need the cleanest, like, if that's what you want, if you want sparkly cleans, that's fine, but don't think you need that to go with your pedals. Like, I feel like a lot of people get suckered into.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, that's kind of like a video I got up, and like, like I said, I want to stay away from just like demos, like straight up demos. I'll do them when I think the product is cool enough, or I have an interesting take, such as my Black Star Fly Rig 3 video. I decided, yeah, the amp sounds good, but what does it sound like when I put $3,000 worth of guitar pedals onto it and put a mic in front of it? And it sounds really cool. I'll do demos like that, like interesting things, but for the most part, it's just about keeping it simple and just remember to make music.
That's awesome. Well, let me ask you. We've talked in the past about different amps and things, and right now, is your mainstay appears to be that 5 watt Marshall, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's a Marshall Class 5. It's I believe it was made in 2012. It's the 50th or 60th anniversary of Marshall, so they did a bunch of limited releases, and so it looks like a old school Plexi kind of. It's got like the old, like instead of like the cursive Marshall, it's like the brick, where like the placard Marshall on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made in Britain, and it is 5 watts, but don't let those 5 watts fool you. It is plenty loud. I actually use it in the low watt mode most of the time because I live in an apartment. But it's just, it's not your traditional Fender Deluxe or, bigger amp, I guess you could say. It's a smaller, it's got a 10-inch speaker, and I just really, really love it. It's one of my favorite amps I've ever owned, and I've owned quite a few.
Yeah, I a good amp is kind of like finding the guitar that you go on a journey and trying to find the guitar that molds with you, and finding an amp to me is kind of the same way. Like, yeah, you can find a lot that you like, but finding the one that you love is kind of the, once you find it, it's like it's hard to let go of. And I think you talked about the clean pedal platform thing, and I think it's like your amp is a huge part of choosing what pedals you use, because
Absolutely.
if you're the kind of guy who is gonna crank your amp up and push it kind of dirty, then you may not need a certain type of pedal, as opposed to the guy who's got a twin reverb. He's trying to make it sound like like a plexi or something. And so it that's like a huge part of every player's equation, is finding the amplifier and the gain stage that it's at, and how it's EQ'd, and it matters a lot, especially in your drive sections, about what pedals that you pick.
No, absolutely. And I get that. Everybody, some people want that crystal clean, and then they also want to sound like a plexi. And my simple answer to that would always be, well, then just get a plexi. Like, if you want to sound like a plexi, get a plexi. I know that's not applicable to everybody, and trust me, I live on a budget too. I live in one of the most expensive cities in the entire country. I totally understand working on a budget, but at the same time, it's I I get wanting to have like a wide array of like sounds, but at the end of the day, if you're gonna be honest with yourself, do you need it all? Like I look at some guys who have like 6, 7 drives on their pedal board, and why? Like, why do you need that? I mean, it's cool to and get inspired by those sounds, but I mean, how much different is that tube screamer compared to the other tube screamer that you have on your board? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
again, it's just a matter of what works for you works, but at the same time, my thing is try to be honest with yourself. I feel like if we were all honest with ourselves, at the end of the day, again, you'll just need something simple. Like you'll need maybe like 2 or 3. Like me, I'm a big fan of like having maybe 3 drives at the most on your board. I feel like you can get away with a light overdrive, distortion if you don't have like a dirty channel on your amp, or you're running a master volume, or running just a single channel amp, and then like a fuzz, because I love fuzz. I feel like fuzz is one of those pedals that like an amp can't really do fuzz, so therefore I can justify having a fuzz on my board.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think my newest craze that I've been on is just amp distortion. Like I said, I've been cranking my amp recently, and then I try to go back to playing like a distortion pedal, and it's just not the same. Now, one of my favorite things to do is get like a preamp pedal and push my amp even further into distortion. That sounds amazing, but like I've recently rediscovered how like amp distortion is just, no matter how hard the pedals are trying, like they can sound really good, but in a different way. I don't feel like they can ever truly words are hard. Sorry, it's late. Mind you guys, I get up at like 3:00 in the morning, so this is past my bedtime. So I'm starting to slur words. I swear I haven't been drinking, officer. But no, like a preamp pedal with a cranked Marshall, that's where it's been at for me recently. And it's just, I feel like, I think I had talked myself into like, oh yeah, I need this crystal clean amp. I need this Marshall won't do it for me. But then like I played it some more, and like I was like, why did I ever think that? Like, this is me. This is who I am. Like, I'm gonna be myself,
Yeah, I think a lot of times, and we've seen such a mass exodus from high wattage amps, but like, I get why somebody needed a twin reverb when you weren't playing with PA, and you're trying to play a space where you're competing with all the other instruments. An amp like that's going to cut through, or a 100-watt Marshall. If you're wanting to play overdriven tones, and then it goes on to like all the Mesa Boogie stuff, and but the fact is that most players today, even if they are playing live, like they're being asked to not, blow people away with their amplifiers, and
Yeah.
being in the 15 to 20 watt range is, maybe even 30, say 30, is
Sometimes that's even too loud.
that's pretty loud. I went from playing 100-watt amps to playing 40 to 50-watt amps to now like I'm playing a what is Princeton, 12 to 15 or the 15, somewhere
Depends
in
on
there.
which version you get. It's either 12 or 15.
Yeah. So I went from 100 down to 12 or 15, and that even a Princeton can get out of hand to me.
Yeah, but here's my thing. Like, there's nothing better than an amp that's really cooking. So whatever wattage you need to get to where you can turn your volume up to where it's cooking, that's the wattage for you. Now, most venues, most quote unquote reputable venues, yeah, you can get away with these smaller amps, you know. But like my friend who bought the twin reverb, he's like playing terrible house shows that have just two PA speakers for vocals.
Yeah.
You know, so he needs these, you know, he was rocking that tour, he was rocking a Sun amp and a Fender Twin. Two really, really loud amps.
Yeah. That'll make
Like,
your head bleed right there.
dude, I can't even imagine. But at the same time, I've been to these like little bars, and one of the best tones I've ever heard in my entire life. I was in Dallas with my girlfriend, and we randomly went to this bar that had an open mic night, and this guy brings up a 68 Princeton Reverb reissue, plugs in, I think either, I don't know if it was a Tele or Strat, I just remember it was a Fender. He cranked it to like 5, and it was, I literally bought that amp because of him. Like, it turned out it didn't necessarily work for me because like I ended up returning it, but I bought that amp because of him that night, because that's how inspiring that tone was. And he had no pedals. He had a stupid clip-on tuner, which I know the tone jerks hate, but he made it work because he wasn't playing with like a full band. But his sound, it was one of the most inspiring things ever. And like I said, just plugged straight into the amp. He had the little foot switch that comes with the Princeton that, you know, allows you to do the reverb in the tremolo, or tremolo, however you pronounce it. How do you pronounce it?
Tremolo.
Tremolo, yeah. I go tremolo. Yeah, probably more often than not, but I can do both. I'll slip into whatever, you know, depends on, you know, how much I've been drinking or how long the day has been, is how I'll say it. Just like I'll slip into my southern accent. The either the more tired or the more drunk I get, whatever one I'm doing.
We've got to hear that southern accent while you're on the early show.
Oh man, I haven't been drinking.
Well,
like,
I don't
do like a
want to
really
cause
bad,
you to
like,
drink or
rednecky
anything.
version. It's I'll just tell my girlfriend, no, Clifton made me do it. He made me do it. You know, but like growing up in, like, it's weird because I grew up in Southern California for, like I said, till freshman year, and then up until 2 years ago I was in Texas. So like I have this weird, like, I'll slip in and out all the time. Yeah. All time. See, I just did it right there, not even intentionally. And you know, I'm all about the B's and G's. You know about the B's and G's? Do you know what the B's and G's are?
No.
Clifton. It's biscuits and gravy. It's
biscuits and gravy. Well, yeah, I never heard it called that, but I am into some biscuits and gravy for sure.
That's right. That's a shout out to the B's and G's. I actually took that from Wampler's Chasing Tone podcast back when like Travis was on it. Okay. Way back in the day before Blake got on it. But he would always talk about the B's and G's. I love me some B's and G's. B's and G's was the greatest thing ever. Tell you what.
Well, it is. I mean, to me, there's no better breakfast than good biscuits and gravy with sausage in it.
Okay, here's something that's gonna blow your mind. I would agree with that for the most part, but there's this place in Murrieta called Yellow Basket.
Okay.
And I love a good breakfast burrito. Okay, I'll admit that. And I love me a good chicken fried steak with some gravy for breakfast with some eggs. You know. Mm-hmm. You know what these crazy people did? They done gone put them together, my friend. It is a country fried burrito. So it's a burrito with chicken fried steak, eggs, cheese, and gravy in the burrito.
Oh man, no, that sounds amazing.
Heart attack in a bite.
Yeah,
is one of the most life-changing things you'll ever do in your life. Oh man, you don't even understand. I hurt myself, like, and they're huge. Like, if I probably did too, I'd probably die. But no, first time I had it, I was actually flying back to Texas, And like we stopped there and she's like, oh yeah, go here. And I was like looking at the menu, and this place has like a menu that has like literally 60 items on it. They like serve everything. It's like, oh yeah, you want tacos? We got tacos. You want lasagna? We got lasagna. You want a burger? We got a burger, kind of thing. And I saw that and I got it. And oh, I forgot to mention hash browns. There's hash browns in it, guys. Potatoes.
See,
Can't have a breakfast burrito
I'm
without
so
potatoes.
picky about my hash browns. They've got to be like on point and right.
Was on point and right for
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
What is it? What classify? What
Well,
does that
to
mean?
me, like,
What
okay,
is the Clifton standard?
so like I used to work at Waffle House, okay, and we had
Oh, fair enough. I spent a lot of late drunk nights at a Waffle House at like
well,
3 o'clock in the
well
morning.
then that like if you get the hash browns like scattered, but
Okay.
like not burnt like where they're black on it, but
Mm-hmm.
like really crispy, like the kind like that you've had to pump a
Like
lot
a
of oil.
dark brown.
Yeah, pump a lot of oil onto the thing to get it to crisp on up. Like
Mm,
that's amazing. Now that's not healthy, but
no. Whatever.
that's yeah. Just like spread it thin, like scattered all over the grill, cooked on there to the point where like each little flake is like super crispy. Like that's amazing.
Hmm.
What the kind of hash browns I'm picky about, like hash rounds. Like sometimes those get like really mushy and they're
Are you
not
talking about like
crispy.
home fries?
No, for instance, like Hardee's has them. Like
Okay. Yeah. Like, I honestly, let's just admit it. Everybody, they're glorified tater tots. Let's
yes,
be real.
like cut down
Okay.
into little,
Uh-huh. They're just a
rounds.
different shaped tater tot, but they're a tater tot, everybody.
Exactly. And I like tater tots, but not necessarily. I don't want tater tots for breakfast, if that
Fair
makes
enough.
sense. Yeah.
No, I totally get it. I'm a big fan of home fries too, though. Just side note, that's why I brought those up. I can get down on some good home fries, A little bit of bell peppers, There's some garlic on there, some pepper, some salt,
Hmm.
fry it up, call it good.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I man, the burrito that you were describing, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I could go for that.
Dude, okay. Like, I mean, I really wish if you were coming to Nam, like that there was a closer Yellow Basket than Murrieta, because that's like a 2 hour drive from like Anaheim, if not more with traffic. Um, but I would love to treat you to a country fried steak burrito.
Well, yeah, maybe let's just cross our fingers and hope that the podcasters have another summit or whatever, and maybe I'll try to make it out.
Well, Murrieta is still, even from SD, is about an hour away,
Oh, is
bro.
it? Is it?
Yes, it is. This is what they call the Inland Empire in Southern California, and it's a good drive. But if you do go to Nam, and I'm pretty sure I'll be going. Maybe I can stop on the way and pick one up. It'll be a little cold. You have to heat it up, but still be delicious.
That's no, that sounds amazing. It really does.
Uh,
Well, it's been really fun hanging out and having you on the show, and I really encourage our listeners go find RJ on Instagram at TeleTalks, and you can also follow ShellyTheTele if you're interested in checking out that guitar.
yeah.
Where else can they find your stuff?
So, kind of going all off. So, Instagram, TeleTalks. Okay. Stay tuned. Follow me on there, because that's where I'm going to do a lot of my announcements. That's where I'm going to be like, hey, new YouTube videos live. That's where I'll be posting. I try to post every day, something cool, something fun. Also, stay tuned, picking it all back up. Actually, might be doing a giveaway. Hint, hint. Follow so you can,
Sweet.
get on that. On YouTube, just search TeleTalks ! All one word, and my channel pop up. My little icon, if you're looking just for the channel, is ShellyTheTele, and it has the word TeleTalks on it. So check that out. I'm gonna start posting there a lot more. Probably got a bunch of cool things. I'm not sure exactly where I'm gonna be in all these upcoming things that are coming up for this weekend extravaganza on with all these other podcasters, such as Gear Slam, Six Cycle, and Tone Jerks, etc., Flipping Flippers. But gonna have some cool stuff coming out of that. And let's see, I think that's about it. But mainly, and there is a TeleTalks Facebook group. Not gonna lie, it's been kind of dead, but you're welcome to join it and pick it back up. That way we can get the conversation rolling on there, and I'll be happy to answer any questions on there. Or you can also just message me on Instagram, probably be the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Again, at TeleTalks, all one word.
And I noticed too, on your Instagram, you can find those videos in the IGTV.
Yes, that is true. Thank you for pointing that out. I do put in IGTV. It'd be really cool if you could check them out there, because honestly, in a perfect world, I'd love IGTV to be the next YouTube. I don't know if it necessarily is, but if I could just have my brand all on one social media of some sorts, it'd be the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like, how amazing. Like, I think the biggest drawback is their ads, they don't have their ad game pointed out, like, because everybody wants to be a famous YouTuber and make that money. They don't have that figured out yet. And also, I'm not a big fan of the vertical view. Like the vertical only view, because like if you can tilt, if you upload the video sideways, you can tilt it sideways, but it doesn't go back and forth.
Gotcha.
But,
Gotcha.
Maybe in due time. And the upload is only 10 minutes. You can't go anything past 10 minutes on IGTV. But I do have them on there. But like I said, I'm going to be drizzling out my YouTube video content and small clips on just my regular Instagram feed, such as the shoegaze videos you'll see on there. And so if you need a little bite size of fun, minute and 30, go check that out.
Awesome. Well, before you go, I want to ask you one question. Jonathan Diaz, and I don't know where this is coming from, but I'm assuming you have some kind of insider joke here.
Okay.
Who your favorite Canadian pop music diva is?
I don't have one. I don't know. Canadian. You know what? I have no clue who he's talking about. I kind of have an idea, but I'm going to go buck the trend and just really blow everybody's mind. I'm going with Ryan Reynolds. I know he's not a singer, but he's a singer. Come on. You've seen him in Deadpool. It's fine. We all know the greatest Canadian is Ryan Reynolds. Period. Everybody knows this. He's a treasure. He's a treasure. He's a beautiful man.
A national Canadian treasure.
That's right. Which, you know what? That's okay. Like, that. Beautiful man. If you guys haven't seen the movie Just Friends, you need to watch it.
And on that note, thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Clifton Worley Show, and thanks RJ for coming on, man.
Thank you so much. I look forward to hopefully maybe being on again, and maybe we'll get you on Talking Teles.
Would love that.
Yeah. So let's do it, man. All right. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.